Welcome to Immigreats, the podcast that highlights stories of immigrants making great contributions in their adopted countries. My name is Munatsi and I'm your host. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe and now live in Texas, USA with my family. Before getting into today's episode, I'm excited to share a word from the sponsor of this podcast. I'm grateful for our friends at Alma Law in Dallas, Texas. Alma Law, that's A-L-M-A, is one of the United States' top immigration law firms. They're a great resource for immigrants that are already in the United States and for people that are looking for professional assistance to emigrate to the United States. I can confirm that the process of moving to the United States can seem daunting. Alma Law specializes in handling all manner of immigration cases, from J-1 physician visas, investors and entrepreneur visas, family immigration, temporary employment, special petitions, permanent resident adjustments, and employer compliance. You can call them in the U.S. on 972-573-8575 or email them at help@alma-law.com to schedule a consultation. You can also visit their website, alma-law.com, for more information. My guest today is one I'm certain you'll enjoy learning about. He's got an incredible story and also has the unique distinction of being the first ever Black mayor of a city in the state of Montana here in the United States. His name is Wilmot Collins, and I'm looking forward to learning from him today. Welcome, Mayor Collins.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you finally. After all the ups and downs, I'm happy to be your guest today.
No, I'm excited too. I'm grateful that we get to learn from you and also just put your story on records for many, many people to be able to learn from your experiences and learn about the places you've been, the places you've lived, and the impact you've made. So really grateful for your time.
Thank you.
I'd love for us to start, sir, with a little bit of your backstory. You know, I know you were born in Liberia,
yes,
but I don't know much else outside of that. So I'd love for you to just talk to us about, kind of where you were born, and what it was like growing up, where you grew up, and then maybe leading the circumstances that eventually led to you emigrating to the United States.
Yes, thank you. I was born, raised, and partly educated in Liberia, West Africa. I'm from a very large family, 7 brothers and 4 sisters. And my parents worked for the Firestone Plantation Company in Liberia. Now, I'm sure most of you here have driven on the Firestone tires.
Absolutely.
Stone tires, BF Goodrich tires. All those tires are from Liberia, and my parents worked for that company. We were, middle-class family, and both of my parents are educated. My dad went to Howard University in Maryland area there, D.C. My mom went to San Francisco State University. So they all came here, went to school. In Liberia, I graduated. I have an Associate of Arts degree from Ricks Institute Junior College. I have a bachelor's degree with political science and sociology from the University of Liberia. After graduation from the University of Liberia, I started teaching at a local elementary school. It's in almost every African country. As a matter of fact, you may have heard about it, the SOS Children's Village.
Absolutely, I have, yeah.
Yes, I was a teacher at the SOS Children's Village in Liberia. And, Liberia got engulfed in a brutal civil war, and that took a turn for the worse, so to speak. We all decided that, there was no place safe because the war was so brutal. Everybody was struggling. I lost 2 brothers in the war. One of my youngest brother was beheaded by the soldiers. Then one next to him, he was only 23, 24. He was shot in his car. So I lost 2 brothers in that war. So we knew it was deadly. It was bloody, and we had to get out of that country. But in that time, I was also dating the love of my life, and we were fleeing from one place in Liberia. When the war came closer, we fled further away.
Right.
And things got really bad. That's when ECOWAS stepped in and said they were going to send a peacekeeping force to Liberia to help take Liberians who wanted to leave the country to come to go to any country in Africa, West Africa. So my wife and I decided, well, at the time she was my fiance and I decided that we were going to leave the country.
Okay.
We decided, and my mom was with us. We prayed that night, and we told my mom, I think it's time we leave. We prayed, and she said, okay, tomorrow we will leave. The following day, we got up to go to the port, and my mom said she wasn't going because the Lord was not leading her. And I tried to argue with her. She refused. So I told her, Mom, we have to go. So she said, you go. And she gave my fiance and I $5 and said, go, God be with you. And we left. We went to the port. When we got to the port to get on board the Nigerian cargo ship, it took us 3 days and 3 nights standing on line to get on board the ship. Finally, on Sunday, because we got there Friday morning, finally Sunday at 9:47 p.m., we were chosen to get on board the ship, and they closed the gates at 10 o'clock. It was estimated that 10,000 Liberians were on that ship. We got on board the ship, didn't know where we were going. I asked my wife, where are we going? She didn't know, I didn't know. So the following morning, we started asking people, where is this ship going? They said, oh, the first stop would be in Ghana. And I told my wife, in Ghana, they speak English, so we should stop there. And I would try to look for the SOS Children's Village in Ghana. So 3 days standing on line at the port. When we got on board the ship, another 3 days and 3 nights on the ship. No food, no water, no change of clothes, nothing. Starving. When we got into Ghana finally, they put us in the port. It was fenced in, so we couldn't get out, but I had to sneak out, and I snuck out of the fence, and I had the $5 my mother had given my wife and myself, and I stopped a taxi, and I asked the taxi. We landed into Tema, Ghana. It's a port city. And I told the taxi driver, I said, hey, I'm looking for the SOS Children's Village. Can you take me there? And he agreed. I said, I don't have much money. I have only $5. He said, that's enough. I later found out $5 was too much. It would have taken me 50 cents. Yeah, so that was the first con. So anyway, we went to the village, the SOS Children's Village, and I met the director and I introduced myself. He said, do you have any identification card? I told him, no, when we were fleeing Liberia, we didn't travel with card because we didn't want to be linked to a rebel group. And he said, then I don't know if I can help you. I said, well, he said, but there are some children that came from the SOS village from Liberia. They came on the first ship. I'll send for them. If they can identify you, I'll help you. I said, please send for them.
Wow.
He sent for the kids. When the kids saw me, they started crying. They broke down crying. Oh my God, Mr. Collins, Mr. Collins, Mr. Collins, we're so sorry, we're so sorry. I didn't even know why they were sorry until I asked to use the restroom. When I went into the restroom and looked in the mirror, when those kids saw me during the good times, I was 172 pounds. When they saw me that day, I was 92 pounds.
Wow.
92.
Oof.
Yes, that's why they were crying. I'm sorry, I get a little teary when it comes to this.
No, that's very understandable. Yeah, I mean, because you'd obviously gone, long periods with no food and also in a highly stressful, kind of environment as well. And
yeah,
man, that's tough.
So anyway, the director, the village father, realized that yes, I was who I said I was. He said, "Where's your family?" I said, "I have my wife at the port, and I have my brother-in-law and my niece." And he sent a van, and he got my family over.
Okay.
And so he gave us a place to live. And so because I was a teacher in Liberia, he put me back in the school, and I started teaching in the school. My wife was a medical student, so she started helping out in the clinic. But after about 3 months of living there, my wife said, "I don't like the way we're living, so let's go to America."
Okay.
I said, "How do you suppose we do that? There's no way we can do that." She said, "Well, I have family in America." Now, my wife came to Montana in high school as an exchange student.
Ah.
And so she was still in touch with the family she lived with when she was in high school. And we called them up, and they were willing to help us. So they were able to get a scholarship for my wife to come to America to do nursing. So the local university here in Helena, my wife came, and I had to stay behind. because the scholarship was hers.
Mm.
But 2 weeks before she departed Ghana to come to America, we found out she was pregnant. And I said, wow, this is tough. I don't know if I can let you all leave me here alone. But she said she thought this was the best thing. And so we prayed about it. And she left August 19th, 1991. She left and came to America. And I stayed in Ghana. And the war had a ceasefire. So I decided to go back to Liberia during the ceasefire. But then when I arrived there, the ceasefire broke. So this time when I fled into the Ivory Coast.
Okay.
And in the Ivory Coast, they speak French. And in Liberia, we speak English. So I was just a vagabond. I was on the streets of the Ivory Coast until a friend of mine recognized me and took me into his home. And I lived with him until they passed the Liberian Congress in America, passed the Liberian Resettlement Act, which enabled Liberians to join their relatives in America who were permanent residents or who had green card. But my wife didn't have any because my wife was a student. So she was not eligible and I was not eligible. So 9 months later, when my daughter was born, I went back and informed them I had a daughter in America who was a citizen. And of course, I had to prove that my daughter was my daughter. I had to go through the whole process. And it took me 2 years and 7 months to go through that process.
Wow.
Yes. 2 years and 7 months. I had not touched my daughter. I had not physically held my daughter. And after going through the process, when I was finally selected to come to America, I found I was coming to Montana. And I knew nothing about Montana. So I called my wife. I said, hey, I've been approved to come to Montana. Tell me about Montana. She said, well, you will love it. You will love it. It's a beautiful place. You will love it. I said, I've been reading and they say it's very cold there. And she said, yeah. I said, what's the temperature today? This is in January, right? And she said, oh, it's pretty warm today. It's 19 degrees. I said, 19 degrees and you say pretty warm? What is it when it's cold? She said, oh, sometimes it's below zero. Yeah. And of course, in Africa, you don't have anything below zero. Everything is warm. And so I'm confused with what she's saying. Yeah. And I asked her, I said, I hear there are not many black people there. Yeah. Do you see black people around? She said, there's one black boy in my school. I said, at the whole university? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Where am I going? But the day arrived, I got on the plane and I came to Helena and we moved in with our host family. The same family she was living with in high school. They took us in also. And so I came here without a job. I arrived JFK. When I arrived JFK, I had 25 cents. 25 cents. Wow. And the phone booth, to make a call, you needed 35 cents. And I couldn't call. I saw this guy walking. And I said, sir, would you give me 10 cents, please? He gave me 10 cents. I was able to call my wife and say, hey, I'm in America. I'm coming to Montana tomorrow. Wow. When I came to Montana, I had 0 cents. I came here without a dime, without a penny. And I was coming to my wife and daughter without a penny. I arrived. They welcomed me. And our host father was assistant principal at a local high school here. Okay. So every morning when he go into school, I would get in his truck and I would go to school with him. And then I would walk around and get familiar with the city. And then at the end of the school day, I go back to the school and we go home. Okay. So this day, I walked a little further away and saw the Capitol building, the Montana Capitol building. And I walked up to it. And to my left, I saw office of the governor. To my right, I saw office of the Secretary of State. So I decided to go and meet the governor. As I got to his office, the lady stopped me and said, the lady stopped me and said, do you have an appointment? I said, no, ma'am. She said, would you like to make one? I said, yes, please. So I'm writing my name down and this gentleman came behind me and said, may I help you? I said, no, sir, I'm here to meet the governor. He said, well, I am the governor. My name is Mark Roscoe. What can I do for you? I said, well, sir, I just came from Africa. I thought I should come and meet you. He said, what part of Africa? I said, Liberia. He said, oh, where the slaves went? I said, yes. He said, come on in. So I walked in his office. He said, Mr. Collins, what do you do? I took out my paper resume. This is what I do. He said, oh, you used to teach? I said, yes, sir. So he pressed his intercom and said, Pat, please come in. And this lady came in. He said, how can we help Mr. Collins? He handed my resume to her. She looked at it and she said, Intermountain Children's Home is looking for counselors. Why don't you apply? And here's my card. And here's the governor's card. Why don't you apply and use us as your reference? And I said, thank you. So I applied and I got the job the following week. So I started working. And then 3 months later, I decided I would join the National Guard. I joined the National Guard. I didn't know I would join it because I thought you had to be a citizen. But I was later told that, no, you don't have to be a citizen. You have to be in the country legally. And I told them I was here legally. So I retired from the military after 22 years in 2018. And so just before I was retiring, my son, who was a junior at the University of Montana, he came to me. He said, Dad, you're about to retire. What are you going to do with yourself? I said, I don't know. I'll talk to your mom and see what we'll do. He said, why don't you get into politics? I said, whoa, no. He said, what do you mean no? I said, I don't understand anything about these people politics. He said, Dad, talk to your friends. And if they think you're ready, they will tell you. If they think you're not ready, they will tell you. So I invited 3 couples for dinner. After we had dinner, I told them, guys, part of the reason I called you is to tell you that I'm thinking about running for mayor. And one of the ladies just yelled out and said, oh my God, this is fate. So I said, what do you mean? She said, just last night, we were thinking about asking you to run. And you invite us and tell us. So this has to happen.
Oh, wow.
I said, wow, okay. And then my son said, I rest my case. I told you. So I said, what do I have to do? They said, first, convince your family this is what you want to do. And then we will help you. So I told my wife was against it. She said, no. But the kids and all of us managed to convince her.
Okay.
So we started and we ran a campaign. It was not easy because we ran against someone who had been there for 16 years.
Been there for 16 years.
Yes, he was there for 16 years.
How long is one term for the mayor?
4 years. 4 years.
So they'd been reelected 3 times.
He had been reelected 4 times.
So yeah, okay.
4 times. So I knew I had an uphill battle. They said, but we think you can do it. That's why we wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So they helped guide me along the way. And you know the result during November of 2017, I won by 1 percentage point.
1%.
Percentage point. And what I ran on, you see, I know we live in a red state. Montana is very red. And I ran on issues that are universal.
Okay.
It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. It's a human issue.
Right.
I ran on funding the providers of essential services. That is firefighters, police, EMTs. I promised to fully fund them. I ran on bringing affordable housing to the city. And I ran on curbing veterans and teenage homelessness. Those were the 3 issues.
Okay.
And I tell you no lie, when I got in, we were able to accomplish all those things within the first year and a half.
Oh, wow. That's
so when
impressive.
I ran for my second term, I didn't win by 1 percentage point. I won by 36 percentage points.
So the people of Helena approved, for sure.
They knew I did what I said I would do. And so
that's impressive.
And and things have been, I'm not going to tell you everything have been all hunky-dory. There have been some challenging times, but we've worked through those challenges. So in a nutshell, that's how I came to be where I'm at today.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for just taking us back in time and walking us to today, essentially. And congratulations on the re-election. The resounding re-election.
Yes.
I think the people of Helena definitely endorsed you very loudly. So congratulations, and I wish you all the best in the future for sure. I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Yes.
You touched on the fact that you spoke to your wife and you were asking her, tell me, what is Montana like? And yes, Montana is very cold. I hadn't shared this with you, but last summer I got a chance to kind of take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a sabbatical. And for part of my break, I actually took a road trip, from Texas that took me through Colorado, Wyoming, and I ended up in Montana, in Bozeman.
Oh, wow. Billings.
Yes, for a couple of days. And it was it was in early August, that I did this. So I was running away from the 110 degree Fahrenheit degree heat in Texas, and it was nice to get to Bozeman. And I think at night the temperatures would be in the mid 50s, 55, 57, and then during the day a high of 72, which felt like heaven, for sure. So I know Montana, is a great place to be in the summer, and maybe not so good in the winter if you don't like the cold. But I'm sure that's one of the things you have to adjust to. But you also asked your wife a question that you mentioned, about are there lots of black people there? And her response was, well, there's one black, a black guy at the at the university. And so
times have changed a little bit. They're more than that now because the college has a program where they are accepting some refugees from Africa.
I see.
We have some Ethiopians here now. Ethiopian refugees that are going to the local college here, where the same college that I awarded my wife the scholarship, Carroll College.
Okay.
They're doing, so we may be about 200 now, about 200 in the capital city. So.
No, that's awesome. So I'm curious now, when you arrived, what was it like being, a young man coming from Liberia, coming from Africa, a black man in a place where, pretty much everyone else around you was not black. I'm just curious about those experiences. Are there any stories that come to mind around,
there's lots of stories. And all of my stories are not rosy. All of them are not hunky-dory. I got some good ones and some bad ones. It was scary for me. It was scary because I didn't know how I would be received.
Right.
But the one thing I always did, I always seized the moment as an educational time. Because when people ask me, hey, you have an accent. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing they would say, hey, you have an accent, where are you from? And then I would seize that time to educate, to tell them where I'm from, to tell them how we are aligned to the U.S. I will seize the moment to teach. But the same Helena that has elected me 2 times already, when I first came, was the same Helena that marked my home with KKK, go back to Africa. So what I'm saying is that, you see, when they don't know you, fear plays a role. How you react is how they will accept you. Because when they told me KKK on my house, KKK, go back to Africa, it didn't scare me. It alarmed me. But what happened after I called the police to see it? The whole neighborhood got together and washed my wall down. When I saw those people washing my wall down, it told me I have been accepted.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's amazing.
You can see racism everywhere. But how people react to it is how you will know whether you're accepted or not. And that day I felt accepted.
You certainly were accepted. I mean, fast forward a couple of decades and they voted you in as mayor. So
yes.
That's a real blessing. You just reminded me of, my time, when I first came to the United States over 20 years ago. I came to go to university, and I went to a small state university in Missouri at the time. And Missouri, I'm sure, was more diverse than Montana would have been, back then. But even then, I don't think that, I'm sure 95% of the kids on campus were white American kids, so any diversity would have been, within the 5%, of the remaining students. And I remember, as you're talking, you're in the cafeteria as a college student and you're sitting around, these American kids, and, some of them you're talking to them in the dorms or in class. And I remember, also having a few students asking me, so you're from Africa? so how come you speak English? Explain that to me. And you're kind of having those conversations. And then I had some women, some young ladies, college students, who would come and say, "Do you mind if I just touch your hair? Can I? I just want to feel what that's like."
Yeah.
And then one or two people actually in my freshman year asked me questions like, so how old were you when you first put on a pair of shoes? And you'd get those questions, but like you're saying, it was mostly the other white American friends around me who would kind of hear somebody asking that question and then jump in to say, what do you mean? You can't ask a question like that, and you need to pick up a book and read, because if you think that everyone in Africa is walking barefoot, there's a lot of, you need to educate yourself to an extent. And
Right.
so you're right, and it was those moments for me that also helped me to feel welcome and feel accepted and feel like I was a part of that community. And as I'm talking, I'm just remembering that also led to me a few years later running for student body president and getting elected.
go.
So I'm seeing a little bit of a parallel with your story, which is really cool. So.
You see, because when you feel accepted, you're more comfortable. You are more comfortable to interact with your community. And I always tell people, I say that there are three things for me that I live by, because I said you must interact with your community. You must step outside of your comfort zone and
Absolutely.
take those and interact. And then you must take risks. Those risks you are taking, I'm not saying take crazy risks. I'm saying just the risk of stepping outside of your comfort zone. Things you are used to, they're not here anymore. So you have to get used to new things. But you see, and most Africans, we like to stay in our comfort zone. We don't like to venture
Right.
out. And that's
Right.
what's hindering a lot of us, because we are capable just like anybody else.
Absolutely.
And sometimes even more. But because we are so comfortable where we are, we don't take risk. We don't step outside our comfort zone. We don't interact with our community. Like when I go to
Absolutely.
Liberian communities, I say, I will tell you exactly what you're going to do tomorrow. And understand. I say, yes, you're going to eat fufu. You're going to eat fufu and soup. You're going to play soccer in the morning. And they say, yeah, you're right. I said, it's time you step outside. When you're going to play soccer, you don't have to stop playing. Invite someone who is not of your group, who is not like you. Invite the other side. Let them see your lifestyle. Let them see what you're used to, so they don't have to create their own thoughts, because you tell your story, or else they will tell it for you. You create a seat at the table, or else you will be the menu.
Agreed, 100%. The common thread I've been picking up in these interview conversations I've been privileged to have, with immigrants that are making great contributions like you, is certainly that the immigrants that have been able to do some really cool stuff, that have built incredible careers and made real impact in their adopted homes, they definitely, moved to this new country, to this new area, and decided that they were going to lean in to whatever this place, was going to offer. And so,
Yes.
You're right that when you first arrive as an immigrant, and I try to tell this to young people too, and any people that I meet that are fairly new in the United States, the temptation is to stick to what's familiar and what's comfortable. And so you find that a lot of times, if people from a particular community, from a particular country in the world, come to America and they're amongst the people from the same country as them, there's a tendency to kind of get into the same careers,
Yes.
and essentially replicate the lives that everybody else in that community,
correct.
have created. And there's nothing wrong with that. And, they're living
No.
comfortably. Some of them are doing okay with that, which is fine. But I do find people that are saying, look, I do want more. I want to experience more. And my argument
Yes.
is, if I just stuck around people that were raised like me, that speak like me, whose experiences are like mine,
You don't
I
grow.
might as well just be in Zimbabwe or in a small town,
You don't
in my
grow.
country where I'm
Right.
from. But if you've gotten an opportunity to, to go somewhere else, you want to lean in, because you don't know what journey you'll be taken on when you do that. And you'll surprise yourself and surprise other people around you, without a doubt. I agree with that.
Yes. Thank you.
That's fantastic. You have also had the privilege over the last few years of, serving in, different capacities with the United Nations, the United Way, the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, and
Yes.
I see lots of service on your resume, lots of service in terms of the experience that you've had. Could you just talk to us about that? Why you've been involved in those types of organizations, and what that has contributed to your life as well as a result.
Yes, you bet. Look, I had people guide me along the way. I've had organizations that helped me come to this great experiment, this great country. All right. And so when I finally came and had my footprint in, the one thing I always knew I would do was to give back. And what better way to give back than to people who understand what you're doing? When I decided I was one of the founding members for the Refugee Congress. I don't know if you heard of Refugee Congress. That's the United Nations. The UNHCR has a body where they have 50 refugees from the 50 states. We get together once a year and we try to petition our Congress people for better immigration policies.
I see.
So we will meet in Washington, D.C., and I would go to my Montana delegation. This person will go to the Wyoming, and they will go with representative from the UNHCR. All of us will have representatives from the UNHCR, and we will go to talk to our representatives to have favorable policies, immigration policies. And so so I was happy to be a part of that. And then with Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, they are now Global Refuge. They changed the name to Global Refuge. I was on the board. So we started making the policy changes. We started making decisions to help other refugees, because I know that here in America, if you don't tell your story, they would tell it for you, and it would never be told in the accurate light. It will all be a negative connotation towards it. Like, how many times did I hear I was coming to America? These refugees are coming to just soak up our resources. They are coming here. They will depend on the government. They will do this, And I always try to tell them, I said, no, we're looking for that second chance. And when you provide that second chance, we will not abuse that second chance. So for me, service has always been a part of me. And I've instilled it in my family. My daughter is in England right now with the Navy.
Okay.
She's been there for 10 years. My son is in Seattle. He's working in the service industry also with his family. So, my wife is a nurse practitioner, and she also was in the Army as an Army nurse. So we've instilled in our family a family of service. That's what we've done. And the rewards, just a thank you. Don't get me wrong. Nobody would think you get wealthy from that. But that one person you help along the way and you get that thank you, it means the world. That's why we do this. We don't do it to get rich, because you won't. We do it to give back. Part of my journey, I also work for immigration, You may not know that. I was an immigration service officer. I did citizenship tests, we interviews, we did everything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's pretty neat. Just related to that, thank you for mentioning
degrees.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about what it's like, when somebody who's gone through this immigration journey finally gets to a place where the immigration officer says to them, you're officially a United States citizen, congratulations. And just, if you don't mind, because I've heard some really neat stories around that.
I will tell you, my wife and I came as refugee, then we became permanent resident, and the both of us went together to take our citizenship test. Of course, we passed it, and I still remember, and then we got sworn in as citizens right at the immigration office the same day, because Montana, is small. So we don't have many people. That day that we got sworn in as American, we were 4.
Okay.
But a few years later, I applied to become an immigration service officer.
Right.
And when I went through the interviews and everything, and I finally accepted. And the office they gave me was the office I took my citizenship test. When I got here and the lady said, here's your office. I said, I took my citizenship test in this office and I described who gave it to me. She said, yes, that was our director. So it was a full 360 degrees. And the feeling, and every year, every 3 months, 4 months, we have a citizenship ceremony. And I'm always invited as the mayor of the city. I go there and I talk to the new citizens and I tell them, you could be right where I'm at because I was sitting where you are. And here I'm at today talking to you. Here I am today, the mayor of this great city. So the world opens up when you do the right thing. And, they listen. People thrive on success stories.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. I try to let them know that this is not the end. This is the beginning. When you become an American, this is the beginning for you to rise up.
So thank you for sharing that. I agree with that 100%. I've heard it said before, and it makes a lot of sense to me that, America, for all its imperfections, I don't know that there's a perfect place in the world, right? But America is one of those very few places in the world where somebody can come as an outsider. You can come and maybe not even speak any English.
Yes.
Come as an outsider and arrive, and you can actually become American. And by become American, I'm not just talking about, a matter of citizenship.
Right.
You can actually become American and be fully embraced as American. And as I've thought about it, I've always thought to myself that, if somebody, emigrated from America to Zimbabwe, where I'm from, and they became eventually, were granted Zimbabwean citizenship, through the immigration process, I feel like they would always be viewed as, a Zimbabwean holder, a Zimbabwean passport holder, but not necessarily a Zimbabwean, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But in America, you can become American. And I've heard people kind of talk about that. And that's something I find really, really fascinating. And then,
that's the beauty.
And the people that I've met, that is.
That is the beauty of this country. You see, for me, I always say, when we try to do the right thing, there is no way you cannot succeed doing the right thing. Sometimes it may be difficult. You may find it very difficult, but I'm a firm believer in the end result will pay, and I've always instilled that in my kids, my family. Let's do the right thing. Because there were lots of people. I'm not kidding you. There were lots of people that help us along the way. Lots.
100%.
So
I agree.
We thank God every day for those assistance we received. And that's why we give back.
I agree 100%. No, thank you. Thank you for saying that, for sure. I want to be respectful of your time and just start, winding down for sure. But I'd love for you to, just kind of see if you have any parting shots, anything that you would say, to a young person or somebody who's listening out there who's thinking about emigrating, maybe not to the United States necessarily, but just thinking about moving somewhere, and kind of starting over or building a life in a totally new, different place. What words of advice would you have just as a parting shot, that they can take from Mayor Collins as they do that?
The same thing I said earlier. I said, I live by 3 things. Get involved in your community. When you get there, get involved. Because by your involvement, people will know who you are. People will know your worth. Take risks, good risks. Those risks would mean you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. Get outside. The third thing is step outside of that comfort zone. I know it's hard. Believe me. I know it's hard. When I first came, my accent was so heavy, people never understood a word I was saying. But I continued to push forward. I continued to take those risks. I got involved in Toastmasters. I got involved in my church choir. I started coaching soccer. I started playing baseball, softball, tennis. I got involved in everything. So when people saw me, oh, I know you from the soccer field. Oh, I know you because you coach soccer. Oh, I know you because you did tennis. That's how you get it. You get into your community. So take risk, get involved in your community, and step outside of your comfort zone. And the world will open up.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I love that. That's a very great place to stop for sure. If anyone who's listening or watching would like to reach out to you, are you present, active on any social media platforms? What's the best way
Yes.
to reach you?
Since I became mayor, I had to get used to a lot of stuff. I'm on X. I'm on Facebook. In fact, I have two Facebook pages. One, my mayor Facebook page, Wilmot Collins, Mayor Wilmot Collins, and I have a regular Wilmot Collins. I'm on Instagram. So yes, Facebook, Instagram, X. They can find me there. They can get a hold of me. And, that's it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing your story, Mayor Collins. Thank you for, just giving us your time. I really have enjoyed learning about you and hearing your story. And I know there are many others who will enjoy this too. Appreciate your vulnerability and just being willing to open up. You've challenged me to think about, who I am as a person in terms of serving my community, in terms of continuing to lean in to the relationships and the people that come around me. Even if there's no material benefit, there is a real benefit just relationally and from a community development perspective. So I really appreciate you just spending this time with us today.
It's a pleasure, and I want you to know that I'm available anytime you need me. The same way you got a hold of me, you got my information. Give me a holler.
I will do that. So thank you.
Thank your viewers for listening and, being a part of this.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that. So
thank you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just read my kind of closing statement, and then after that, we can wrap up. So 1 second. So that's the story of Mayor Wilmot Collins, the first Black mayor, first immigrant mayor in the state of Montana, mayor of the great city of Helena, who was re-elected in a landslide victory not long ago. Just such an inspirational story. Please like this podcast and follow us on your favorite podcast player to catch new episodes. You can find us on social media under the name Immigreats. Visit our website, immigreats.net, and enter your email address to join the growing Immigreats community. Until next time,